Beneficial men are not born, they are built. Expecting young boys to grow into servant leaders is lazy and reckless, especially as men. If we don't intervene in the lives of boys and men to help them become better, we will never see progress in our community. What's up, Black Man? I'm Jamal Calpin, and welcome to the Beneficial Black Man channel, where we focus on overcoming gray mediocrity to become beneficial for our community by discussing faith, creativity, personal development, and mental and emotional health management. How y'all doing? Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you're protecting your mental, finding time for an emotional release valve, and continuing to strive to become beneficial. One of my favorite scriptures that I've taught myself. Well, I didn't teach myself. I had to learn it. That's a different story for a different time. But is Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. And I like it the most in the King James Version. And it reads, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So, in this scripture and in this book of the Bible, the Apostle Paul is talking to the Christians at Rome, the believers at Rome, and he's trying to give them advice on how they should live, and that they should seek to follow God and be living sacrifices and be their best selves, to be good Christians. And a big part of that is to not be conformed to this world. And I think that's really important and relevant to manhood and becoming beneficial men and all that stuff, because it's important to realize that all people here in this world, in this earth, have the ability to be conformed to whatever's happening around them. And so, let's look at the definition of conform real quick. The definition of conform, dictionary.com, to act in accordance or harmony, comply, usually followed by to act in accord with the prevailing standards, attitudes, practices, etc. of society or a group. Or let's do C more. To be or become similar in form, nature, or character. To be in harmony or accord. And here again, to make similar in form, nature, or character. To bring into agreement, correspondence, or harmony. So to conform, even in the scripture, if you look deeper into that word, that like the biblical word and how it's used, it means to force something into a mold. To force something into a mold so that it looks like everything else. And the thing is, we are constantly, daily being conformed to the patterns of this world, to the patterns of this society. And that can be very, very dangerous. Whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, we're always being conformed. Something is always pressing against us to make us a certain way. And why that's so dangerous is because if we're not intentional, if we're not careful, we can be conformed into the image of bad men. We can become mediocre. We can become malevolent towards our community and even towards ourselves. There's this quote by Frederick Douglass that I'm sure you've heard before, but I like it, and I think it's true. It says, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And again, I think this quote is relevant to this discussion because when it comes to manhood, when it comes to becoming a beneficial Black man, we have to understand that, again, the world is conforming us and impacting us. And so we have to make an effort to actually build up something good in our lives. We have to make an effort to push against the conforming nature of what's around us. And yes, that starts with children. It starts with young boys. But that doesn't mean it's impossible, if you are a broken man, to be healed. It just takes effort. It takes effort. And so what I wanted to share today is 4 ways I think manhood is defined and why we need to pay attention to these methods of defining manhood. I don't believe any child, boy or girl, is inherently designed to provide, protect, and serve. I do believe there are personality traits that were influenced divinely that manifest in our behaviors and personality, but it's not limited by sex. Like there are a couple of videos that I've seen um, on Instagram, like Instagram Reels or TikToks or whatever. The first one, there was this prank that parents were doing to their children around Christmas time, and they had like the dad or somebody would dress up as the Grinch and would come into the house and steal the kids' toys and stuff. And the parents would, respond to the reactions of the children or whatever and see what they do. Would they run away or whatever? There was this one video when I think it was two young boys, and the Grinch came in to take their stuff. One kid, screamed and freaked out or whatever, which is rightfully so. This big green creature is coming in your house and taking your toys. But in response, maybe it was the older brother, I don't know. But the other young boy, started going at him. He was throwing stuff at him, screaming at him, yelling at him, trying to fight him, trying to make sure like he got out of the house, that he didn't take the presents or whatever. So you have two young boys raised in the same household, and they act differently. Whether one was taught, "Hey, you're the older brother, you need to protect your kid," or maybe it's just in there. Another video I saw, it was two young girls. This was not the prank, but it was two young girls, and I think they're sisters. And so one was older, and yeah, there was one older one, but not older by much, right? And the younger sister was explaining that at her school, she's being bullied. She's being bullied and picked on. And so she's trying to tell her mom about what's happening. And as she's telling her mom what's happening and what's going on, her older sister that's sitting next to her leans over to her and is looking like dead in her eyes, is saying like, "Tell me her name. What's her name? What's the name of the girl that's picking on you, right?" And so the mom is trying to be like, "No, you don't need to do that. You don't need to know her name or whatever." The older sister is just ignoring the mom's like, "Tell me her name. Tell me her name and I will handle it for you." And that's the thing. You have, again, two siblings, to my understanding, two siblings raised in the same household, but they have two different reactions and responses to conflict and to how to, protect one another, serve one another. And as the story goes on, the little girls go to school, to come back. The problem is resolved because the older sister went and stood up for her younger sister, and is like, "No, don't pick on my sister. You're gonna have to deal with me." And so my point is, in that, there are certain characteristics and traits that I think can naturally manifest in people, but it's not all inherent, you know, and that's important to know, especially for raising young men and just even developing as a man. We're not just born as servant leaders. We're not just born understanding and knowing to provide and protect and to be kind and loving and stuff. There may be certain things that we have an affinity to, or that we're better at, but in becoming a beneficial man and becoming a servant leader committed to living for glory and for good, those things have to be taught to us. Those things have to be taught to us. Some children are brave, some children are naturally timid, some children are naturally kind, and others not so much. And the thing is, when it comes to building men, raising men, it's important that we instill in them the right values and standards so that they can fulfill the role that they were called to be. I do believe all men, are to be beneficial servant leaders to the world around them. We are all called to live for glory and for good. The thing is, we need help getting there, though. So the four things that I think help us to define what manhood is, and these are things that naturally occur. They happen to us whether we want it or not, but they happen and they define our understanding of what it means to be a man. The first one is what we see. What we see in our environment, whether it's while we're growing up or even as adults, what we see around us. What we see ends up defining what we think a man is. How we see our father, relate to our mother, or relate to our brothers and sisters, or how they relate to the society around them. How we see men in movies and entertainment. What we see has an impact on how we define what a man is. The second thing is what we hear. What we hear about men from other men, from our mom, our sisters, our friends, or whatever, what we hear about men impacts how we define what a man is. Third, what we're taught about being a man has an impact on us. Whether it's your father or an uncle or somebody, a man in your life tells you this is what a man is supposed to do. So you not only just see, using the example of a father or a male figure in your life, you not only see him or hear things about him, but he actually tells you directly, this is what a man does. This is what they're supposed to do, so on and so forth. So based off of what we see, what we hear, and what we're taught, and lastly, what we actually experience from men in our lives, men in our community, men in our society. Those four things define and have an impact on our definition of what manhood is, or what manhood is. What we see, what we hear, what we're taught, and what we personally experience. And the thing is, why this is so important is because we need to see good examples of men. We need to hear about beneficial examples of men. We need to be taught what it means to be a beneficial man, and we need to experience beneficial men in our lives. And I think of the four, the most important is experiencing men. How do we experience other men in our own lives? This has an impact on children. This has impact on teenagers. This has an impact on adults, male or female. Lots of women's definition of what a man is and how they choose to relate to men is based off of their experience. Sure, they may see things, they may hear things, they may be taught certain things about men, but their experience is a thing that has usually a longer lasting impact. And the same is true for men. We may see and be told things and taught things, but how we actually experience one another on the, in the workplace, in the community, at church or whatever, has a huge impact on how we define manhood. And so for us, we have to make an effort to make sure that we're seeing good examples of what a beneficial man is. We have to make an effort to do that. And it's not to say that we have to avoid the reality of what's happening in the world. The fact that there are actually not so good men out there, that there are men who actually are terrorizing our communities. There are men who are oppressing and hurting and are violent to other people, men and women, and to children, and to the community as a whole. That's a reality that we need to be aware of. But in the same token, in the same learning experience, we need to see beneficial men standing up against those men. We need to see beneficial men standing up for what's right. We need to see examples of that. We also need to hear about stories like that. Like recently on Miss Deanne Matthews, and I'm going to put a link to her YouTube video in my description. But recently she shared a story of a great man that she's experienced in her life that deserved honor because of his lifestyle, because of his character, because of his influence and impact on the community. Hearing that story, specifically for me, personally for me, hearing that story was so inspiring and motivating and encouraging. Because, on this platform, on the internet, on YouTube, there are a lot of bad stories, particularly of black men. And it gets really, really discouraging. But hearing stories of good men, good fathers, beneficial men who serve in their community, who love their wives, who love their children, who care about the growth of the community, matters a lot. Again, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, we have to hear those things. We have to see those things. And we also need to be taught what it means to be a beneficial man, what it means to be a good man that influences and impacts our community. And I'm grateful that I'm not the only person that's trying to do this. I'm not the only channel that's trying to give advice and give encouragement and give direction and wisdom for how to be a better man, how to be a better black man in our community. But we need to hear those lessons. Sometimes we need to be taught stuff over and over and over again. There are things that we learn and we take in, but we have to continue our education. For example, you may know how to cook, but I'm sure it would absolutely benefit you if you went back to school to learn new dishes, learning how to cook different cuisine from different cultures. That would expand your ability and make you a better cook, make you a better chef. It's the same thing in our personal development and learning and managing our emotional and mental health. Like, we can always get better, we can always improve, but we have to be committed to learning and being taught how to get better. And more specifically, learning and being taught how to become a beneficial man. And lastly, we need to be in community with beneficial men. We need to relate to other men who are striving to live for glory and for good, who are striving to do good for their community, who are striving to be their healthiest self. They're trying to make something that benefits other people, and they're continuing to strive to become beneficial and to make an impact on the world for something bigger than themselves. If we're not in that community, if we're not relating to other good men, if we're not having that experience, if we're not making the effort to continue to learn how to become better, and if we're not hearing and seeing good examples, we will put ourselves in a position to be conformed to the patterns of this world, to be conformed to the impacts and the negativity that exists within our community, that exists within our culture, and that exists in this greater society and world that ultimately doesn't want us to be beneficial, that doesn't want us to grow, that doesn't want us to learn how to be servant leaders, to be selfish, to be selfless, to be kind and strong, and to mature. This world does not care about us. It doesn't. It doesn't want us to thrive. It doesn't want us to grow and become better. It doesn't care about our community. It doesn't want it to get better. The society that we live in wants to milk us for everything that we have, whether it's our culture, whether it's our physical bodies, whether it's our energy, whether it's our finances. It doesn't care about us, but we have to care about us. We have to care about our brothers. We have to care about our sisters. We have to care about the children in our community, the elders in our community. We have to make an effort. If we're striving to be beneficial men, we have to make an effort, and we have to pay attention to these things that define manhood and make an effort to make sure we're defining and getting a good, clear definition of what a beneficial man is so that we can pursue it. So ultimately, it comes down to what you see, what you hear, what you're being taught, and what you're experiencing around you directly in your life. Some resources that I would recommend and I would share are, let me type them up. Give me a second. I'm going to pull them up. So the first one is, okay. The first one I would recommend is the Art of Manliness website. And so they have a podcast. They have a lot of stuff. Podcasts, blog posts, articles, whatever. But in general, it's helpful information for manhood development in general. It's not strictly dedicated to Black men or anything like that. But there are a lot of articles and a lot of helpful things that I've been following this blog and this website at this point maybe close to 10 plus years. But they have a lot of stuff in here, that things that we can consider and things that can help us to continue to grow as Black men. Another resource, let me pull that up, of something good to see, because again, we need examples of beneficial men in our life. Let me pull up this website. Nope, that ain't here. Hold on. Belief and fatherhood. Okay, cool. The next resource is Belief in Fatherhood. Belief in Fatherhood it's a movement, it's a business, an organization. They have a YouTube channel, podcast, a lot of stuff. But the whole point, and I'll go to the mission statement: family is the most important unit on earth. The disconnection of family creates despair. We guide men into fatherhood, equipping them to love and lead their family into eternity. And so this is a great resource, absolutely great resource, even if you don't have children. And maybe you even have no interest in being a father. But there are a lot of nuggets in here to see and to hear about and to learn from to help you become a beneficial man, a well rounded man that serves his community and has an impact, a good impact. And lastly, let me pull this up. Lastly, let me see if I can find it. I'll just pull up his book. Um, yeah, I'll just find the book. Hold on, give me a second. Lastly is a book by Jason Wilson entitled Battle Cry. Here we go. Battle Cry by Jason Wilson. And he has his own podcast, he has his own YouTube channel. But this is a great resource to help you teach you things to become a beneficial man. Because something that he stresses in his work is trying to help men to become comprehensive. And that's a better understanding of how to manage and understand their emotions and their mental health and all these things so they can ultimately be a better man. Because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't really be of any good to other people around you. So I would definitely encourage you to check that out. The Battle Cry. It's a really good book. And so overall, those are the things that we need to make sure are in proper condition in defining manhood. What we see, what we hear, what we're being taught, and the experiences that we're having with other men around us. And we can do that by making sure we're putting good examples of what a man is in our own eyes, in front of ourselves. Hearing good examples, listening to good stories about men and their character and the way that they live, consuming content that teaches us how to become better men, and being in relationship with good men. As I wrap up this episode, let me know in the comments any additional resources that you found in your journey to become a better man, to become a beneficial man. Put, whether it's a YouTube channel, whether it's a book, whether it's a blog, whatever, podcast, it doesn't matter. Just put it in the comments and let me know. And maybe we'll bring it up and discuss it in a future, broadcast or whatever. Anyways, black man, you're called for more than mediocre living. You're here for a purpose, to live for glory and for the good of others. Let's do the work to keep choosing to become beneficial for our community. Protect your mental. Find time for an emotional release valve and continue to strive to become beneficial. I believe in you. I believe in you. Go make something for yourself, make something of yourself, and for glory and for good. Talk to y'all later. Peace.